some point, the math is the math.
I think we can do a better job using that information.
It reinforces my belief that I have the best constituents. Hello, Austin. Hello, District 6. It is Council Member Jimmy Flannigan. We are back live on the Clawback, episode 4, coming live to you from my spare bedroom in my home. I hope you all are enjoying the show so far. We've got a few updates for you today. I think we're getting this format really started to work out a little bit. Hopefully you're enjoying it. We're getting some good content. Let's jump right to our topic list. We're going to start first with a little preview of the council meeting that we have next week. So as most of you know, the council meeting schedules roughly every other week, but what it really means is a 2-week period where we're working through a fairly long agenda. The agenda for the 17th is one of the shorter ones. It's 60, 70 items, something like that. Some of the big conversation that will be around homelessness next week. We won't dig into that too much today. I've got a different update on homelessness for you. But there's a couple of items on that agenda that I think are particularly interesting. One that's interesting to District 6, we're going to be approving the auto aid agreement with Williamson County Fire Department. What that means is if there's a fire in the District 6 part of Williamson County, that automatically we will be able to send whatever the closest fire truck is. If it's the Jollyville Fire Department, if it's Cedar Park, if it's Brushy Creek, wherever the closest fire unit is, we will send help, and that'll be a higher level of service and better collaboration with our Williamson County partners. It's the type of agreement that's been in existence in Travis County for a long time, and we're really excited to see several years worth of work come to fruition with the approval of auto aid agreements with Williamson County. It's going to be a great improvement to our fire service in District 6. The other big item that is on the agenda this coming week is the Riverside zoning case. It's the big case that some of you might have heard about. It's been pretty contentious, but I think there's an important point in terms of how I think about these zoning cases, how I think about a lot of zoning cases, is really the difference between not what is there today, but what might be there in the future. What are the possible future outcomes? For in this case, what you have is a fairly large set of apartment complexes that traditionally have been used by UT students, so there's quite a bit of turnover in the residents. But they're reaching kind of the end of their life as a building type. Certainly the way it was built is challenging, with multiple bedrooms shared off of single bathrooms, and the way they were leased is really for more of a student population. So the reality is there's two possible outcomes. There's a future where all of these properties are redeveloped and turned into 100% luxury housing. And we've seen that happen with other apartment complexes across the city, and you end up with a housing type that serves a need, but not necessarily the need that is most critical. That's one option. The other option is the site redevelops with some luxury housing, but also with income-restricted affordable housing. Those are really the two options in front of us. And I think it makes most sense to work with the developers on this one and not just deny a zoning case where the whole thing turns over in 10 years to be exclusively luxury housing, but get some long-term affordable units on site in one of our highest density, highest transit supported, highest service supported areas of the city. So I've been in support of this case. There's, as always, a couple of I's to dot and T's to cross at the end, ensuring that we've got right to return for tenants and anti-displacement details, and that we've locked down the right levels of affordability. That final decision hopefully will be occurring next Thursday at the council meeting. There's other items on the agenda, but this one really tends to fall into one of those meetings where it's a lot of approving contracts for things that were in the budget we approved. So I imagine we might find ourselves in debate on just a couple of items. The other thing, every week it seems like we learn something a little bit new or a little bit different about our homelessness issue. I've been working regionally. You all know that as a District 6 council member in 2 counties, Williamson County and Travis County, I work a lot across the region, across the 5 and 7 county regions, to try to solve problems together as a whole community. And I've been working with CAPCOG, which is the 7 county regional governments, to start thinking about what homelessness means, not just for the city of Austin, but for the whole region. And in this conversation with our homeless strategy officer and her staff, learned a new phrase that I think is it could be really interesting to think about. One of the challenges that we often hear from the community is that, well, what is the point of providing service when folks experiencing homelessness are just going to refuse help? And part of the challenge for that is if the services we provide don't match the need, why would anybody want them? The common examples are if someone has a pet, or if they have a partner, or they've just kind of collected a little bit of property, pets, partners, and property, that the shelter and services we provide right now aren't super great for folks in those situations. So in this case, as we develop better services that are smaller but more frequent, things that can meet the need of the folks who are having the need, how do you get folks who are hesitant, who are suspicious, who don't trust the system, how do you get them into services? And the phrase that I heard this week that talks about that is called compassionate harassment. Now, I understand that phrase could really hit the ear wrong, but think about it, right? This isn't about harassment in the harassment sense. This is about getting relationships developed with folks who are in a very difficult situation, building trust, and then connecting them to the services that meet the need. It's everyday service providers going out and talking to folks on the street and asking them if they're ready. Are you ready for housing today? There's a new service that's opening up. Tell me what's going on with you right now. But not taking one answer, the first answer, no, I'm fine where I'm at, and assume that is always going to be the answer. This is a process that will actually help everyone. It will help the folks who today might say they don't want help, but in the future, as we build out better services and the trust relationship is developed, we can actually get people the help they need in the way they need it and get folks off the street, which is everyone's goal. It's the council's goal, it's the community's goal, and it is absolutely the goal of folks experiencing homelessness. There's going to be a lot more conversation on this. It is obviously a big topic in our neighborhoods and for the council. And I just always want to reiterate, there's nothing about what's happening today that is okay. It's not fine that people are sleeping on the street. It's not fine for them. It's not fine for us. But just telling them they can't sleep, telling them they can't be somewhere doesn't actually stop the problem from growing. That's what we're focused on, making sure that we're getting folks the help they need in the way they need it, getting them into a level of self-sufficiency and self-support, and ensuring that this system can scale to the level of the need in our community. At the same time, we got to be thinking about, how do people enter homelessness? What is that part of the process? And that gets me into my third topic, which is the land code. The way that our community grows, the type of buildings, where the buildings go, what can go in those buildings, all of that's defined in the Land Development Code. The code we have right now is basically a Frankenstein monster of over 30 years. It was passed originally in the 80s, and it's just been amended and amended and amended and amended over the years, over and over and over again, to the point at which it's pretty much a mess. And I think that's evidenced by some of the more questionable development that we're seeing happen in our community. So the opportunity to rewrite this code top to bottom is an opportunity not just to address growth, but also to address homelessness. The communities in the country that really face these escalating homelessness issues are the ones that are also facing a steep change in their housing prices. As folks who even have jobs become homeless, it then becomes harder to keep your job. Kind of makes sense. So I'm encouraged by what's coming out. The draft of this new code came out last Friday. So it's only been out for a week. We're going to be reading through it. I'm going to read every page. I'm going to read every word, just as I did with prior drafts that were insufficient. That's how I knew it was insufficient, is that I read the whole thing. And so this one we're going to get through. And my plan, at least for the clawback, every Friday we'll take a different chapter of the draft and we'll review it with you. We'll talk about the ins and outs. We'll talk about the things I like. We'll talk about the things I wish were different and why. And by the time we get to at least first reading in December, hopefully we will have reviewed the entire code with you and the clawback audience. So be looking forward to that. Hopefully we'll be able to demystify what at first glance can seem like a very big, complicated issue. But at the end of the day, it's about understanding and channeling growth in our community where it can be supported, where there is infrastructure, and in a way that supports our long-term fiscal sustainability. And that's what I'm going to be working on. So we have, as you've seen, if you've been watching, if you're a regular watcher of the clawback, you know that at this point we have, let me get my titles to go away. So I hit the right button this time. Last time I hit the wrong button and the titles went the wrong direction. So now we have a new segment Every week, it seems, we have a new segment. So get ready for this. Yes, it's our Big Gay News segment. Today, October 11th, is National Coming Out Day. Actually, October 11th, National Coming Out Day. I came out on National Coming Out Day in 1996 as a UT student on campus at the rally. I literally came out on National Coming Out Day in 1996. And it has been a long journey. When you come out, you don't ever stop coming out. It is an ongoing process. And especially when you're a council member in the public eye, it again becomes an ongoing and constant coming out process. Many of you know that I am the first openly gay man to serve on the Austin City Council. Randy Shade was the first openly gay woman to serve on the City Council. She served in 2009. So it is a special type of role to provide and work with a community in Austin that is large and has some pretty specific issues. Some of the work that we've done on this. We created the first LGBT Quality of Life Commission. We helped staff recreate the employee LGBT group. In fact, I want to show, we had our National Coming Out Day, or the group had their National Coming Out Day event earlier this week with city staff and a lot of the city executives, and I got to moderate a panel of city staff and what their coming out experience has been like. But there's something else that's happening right now. The Supreme Court this week held hearings on whether or not people can be fired from their job just for being gay or trans. And I find in Austin, a lot of people assume that that's already protected as equal rights. But in fact, it's not. The city has a policy, a non-discrimination policy. It's one of the first cities in the South to have that policy. It's been in place for a long time. But cities don't really have the enforcement mechanisms for civil rights that you see at state and federal levels. And in the state of Texas, you can still be fired for being gay or being trans. And that's not okay. It's just not okay. If someone's really good at their job, that's why they should keep their job. If they're really bad at their job, that's why they should be fired from their job. It shouldn't be about what your home life is like. But it's important to remember that these are fights that are still happening today in 2019. And it's very likely that the Supreme Court is going to rule that it's perfectly fine to discriminate against LGBT people. And I know Austinites don't agree with that. Austinites believe in equal rights for our LGBT community, for myself and my brothers and sisters and all of my gender tapestry of folks that live in Austin. And that's going to be a really important decision that comes down from the Supreme Court, and something that I hope everyone thinks about when you go into the ballot box next year. There's also another election coming up. I keep talking about it. We have an election in just 2 weeks. Early voting starts on the 21st. You can see my voter's guide for this. I'm going to get it right up to the camera. You can see my voter's guide. It's on my website at jimmyflannigan.com/2019-guide. You can find all of my recommendations for the county and city propositions that you'll see on the ballot. There are also 10 state constitutional amendments. You can get those recommendations from your state rep. In District 6, our main state reps are Representative Busey for Williamson County, Representative Goodwin, and Israel on the Travis County side. Most of them have put out their recommendations, so definitely check those out and go vote. You can start voting on Monday the 21st and always vote early. You'll have an opportunity to try out the brand new voting machines that exist both in Travis and in Wilco, and you'll be able to get comfortable with the voting system before the big primary elections in March, and then the big election next November. So that's all we have on the clawback today. Let me bring up my credits. Thanks to everyone for watching. This is our 4th episode. We're going to keep this thing going. I hope you think this is good information. Be sure to like and share. Subscribe on YouTube. Please help us get more folks watching this. We're going to help our city grow. We're going to help our city be better if we work together and are all on the same page. So thanks.